PCB Lawsuit. PCB Exposure and Health Effects. On this video, we'll discuss the PCB lawsuit investigation, estimated PCB lawsuit settlement amounts, health problems linked to PCB exposures, eligibility for PCB exposure lawsuit claims, and much more. Polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, are toxic substances that were historically used in industrial and commercial applications until their production was banned or restricted. PCBs are often found in building materials, electrical equipment, transformers, capacitors, hydraulic fluids, heat transfer fluids, lubricants, plasticizers, pigments, and carbonless copy paper. These chemicals have been used in some building materials and old fluorescent lighting fixtures that have been found in school buildings across the United States. School children and educators may be among those most chronically exposed to PCBs. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, PCBs tend to accumulate in the body with extended and chronic exposure. Our attorneys are currently investigating the potential PCB litigation, conducting free consultations with students and workers exposed to PCBs. PCB concentrations are high in older school buildings and other buildings that use old fluorescent lighting fixtures. Over the course of the 20th century, numerous companies produced PCBs or used PCBs to manufacture electrical equipment, electrical devices. Companies that have produced PCBs over the years include Monsanto Company, General Electric, GE, Westinghouse Electric Corporation, ABB, ASEA Brown Boveri, Siemens. Capacitor manufacturers. PCBs can be found in various locations due to their historical use and persistence in the environment. Here are some common sources where PCBs can be present. 1. Electrical equipment. PCBs were extensively used as insulating fluids in electrical transformers and capacitors. Old electrical equipment, especially those manufactured before the ban, may still contain PCBs. 2. Industrial sites. Manufacturing facilities, chemical plants, and other industrial sites where PCBs were used or produced may have residual contamination in the soil, water, or nearby areas. 3. Buildings and construction materials. PCBs were added to building materials like caulking, paints, sealants, and plastics to improve their durability and fire resistance. Older structures may still have these PCB-containing materials. 4. Natural environment. PCBs are persistent pollutants and can accumulate in soil, sediment, and water bodies. They can enter the environment through industrial releases, improper disposal, and atmospheric deposition. 5. Food and food chain. PCBs can bioaccumulate in the food chain, particularly in fish and other seafood. Predatory fish at the top of the food chain tend to have higher PCB concentrations. 6. Consumer products. Although their use has been banned or restricted, some consumer products manufactured before the regulations may still contain traces of PCBs. These products include carbonless copy paper, pigments, lubricants, and plasticizers. Exposure to PCBs has been linked to a number of potential health effects. PCBs accumulate in the body, so chronic exposure to PCBs may be especially dangerous. These health effects have been well documented by scientific and governmental agencies for decades. Potential health effects of PCB exposure. Developmental and neurological effects. Endocrine disruption. Immune system dysfunction. Reproductive disorders. Carcinogenicity. Liver damage. Skin conditions. Respiratory issues. Why PCBs are dangerous. Persistence. PCBs are highly persistent in the environment, leading to long-term exposure risks. Bioaccumulation. PCBs can accumulate in the food chain, particularly in fish and seafood, increasing the likelihood of human exposure through consumption. Toxicity. PCBs are toxic to humans and animals, impacting various organ systems and causing a range of health effects. Endocrine disruption. PCBs interfere with hormonal systems, disrupting normal hormone function and potentially leading to reproductive and developmental disorders. Carcinogenic potential. Some PCB congeners have been identified as probable human carcinogens, increasing the risk of cancer development. Environmental impact. PCBs pose risks to ecosystems and wildlife, leading to ecological imbalances and bioaccumulation in sensitive species. It is crucial to minimize exposure to PCBs, follow regulations and guidelines, and properly manage and dispose of PCB-containing materials to protect human health and the environment. If you've been exposed to PCBs and suffered health effects, you may be eligible to file a PCB lawsuit claim. Potentially cancer-causing chemicals present in electrical equipment, schools, and older buildings may be putting public health at risk. If you or a loved one were exposed to PCBs and subsequently developed cancer or other health effects, you may be eligible to file a PCB lawsuit claim. Contact TorHoerman Law for a free consultation. You can also use the chatbot on the page for an instant case evaluation.